Hey, what's up, folks? Well, today I got to go to an ICP dealers meeting on the new variable speed or the new inverter unit, and I'm pretty excited about it. And when we got there, the first thing that was talked about was that 4-minute video that everybody had seen. And when I saw that video, my reaction was the same as everybody else's. I was sick. It was disgusting. And the first thing I thought about was of 1,400 people that are going to lose their job. But I didn't go on a rant. I didn't say, well, I'm going to boycott Carrier, screw them, they don't deserve my business. I didn't go on that rant. Try to understand why in the world Carrier would move that business down to Mexico and get rid of 1,400 loyal employees. Well, the thing about videos that we watch on the internet, where you're seeing something bad happen, is you don't get to see the beginning of it. And you don't get to see the end of it. All you see is that middle part, and that's the part that people want you to see. That's the bad part. But you don't see the explanation before, and you don't see the explanation after. You just see the middle, because that's the part that's going to grab you. Pull on your heartstrings and make you feel very, very bad for those 1,400 people. Which I did. And I know a lot of other people did. It made national news. And if you want something, to be seen, put it on social media. And everybody will see it. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, it doesn't matter. So I wondered about these 1,400 people, and I was trying to figure it out. Why? Was it a labor dispute? Was Carrier saying, screw you people, we're just going to take our money down south and we're going to pay people $3 an hour, we don't care about you people. I wanted to know why. I got to find out a little bit more today. Well, like I said, my first thought was it has to be labor related. It has to be. Why else would they move? How many of you guys have been on a factory tour? You see these units coming down the line. You see these people standing behind the units. You see them plugging wires on. You see them putting gas valves on. You see them putting a circuit board in. They all have one job that they do. And that's all they do, day in and day out. Well, to produce that unit, the labor to do it is about 1%, if even that. Because they can produce 20 a minute if they want to. So all that labor that they have, like I said, is equal to about 1%. 1%. Why on earth would a corporation like Carrier, who makes billions of dollars through United Technologies, why would they move their manufacturing plant to Mexico? Over 1%. It's not the 1%. If it was the 1%, they'd stay in Indianapolis. It's got nothing to do with the employees and how much the employees make. Even though you see the people on the news holding up a $20 bill and then holding up $3 $1 bills, this is what the guys make now. This is what the guys down south are going to be paid. Doesn't have anything to do with labor. What it has to do with is the government regulations that are piled on top of this corporation. Obamacare is part of that. All the expenses in production of these units, not the labor. Yeah, the labor is included in the production, but like I said, it's just 1%. That's not enough to make somebody move a multi-million-dollar company down to Mexico. Our government is the reason that company is moving from Indianapolis to Mexico. You can believe me if you want to. You don't have to. You can say, oh, you're full of shit. They just told you something. But stop and think about it. Like I said, labor is 1%. So it's not the people. And we'll talk about those 1,400 people in just a couple minutes. Or what's going to happen to those people. Because by watching the video, you're thinking that they're going to get thrown out on the street after the 2 years is up. And they'll have no hope. But you'd be wrong. We live in a heavily regulated society. The government's got their hands in everything. I mean, just walk in the supply house. Refrigerant is going up. R22 is just going to be sky high by the end of this year. And it's going to get to the point where the bigger companies are going to have, they're going to get so much of it, and the smaller guys are going to get what's left. It's going to start getting rationed out. If we could get the government to lift some of these regulations, companies like Carrier wouldn't have to move south of the border. Everybody talked about boycotting. We're going to boycott Carrier because they watched that 4-minute video. But my question to you guys that say you're going to boycott Carrier because 1,400 people lost their job, are going to lose their job, why aren't you boycotting Train and Lennox and Nordyne and all the other manufacturers that have ties to Mexico? Because Carrier ain't the only one, and one reason they're moving down there is because of all their suppliers are already there. Copeland's there already. The board manufacturers are there. Well, Carrier makes their own stuff. Their controls are made in Indianapolis, and they're going to be moving their controls down to Mexico too. So it's just not 1,400 people that are going to lose their job. It's more than that. And I don't feel sorry for one of them. I used to, till I found out what United Technologies is going to do for those employees that are going to lose their job. And actually, at the end of the day, they're going to be better off than what they were when they first walked in that door. And keep in mind, they have 2 years to plan. But we'll get to that in a minute. Every manufacturer, like I said, has ties to Mexico. And nobody is going to boycott those companies. Because if they do, we wouldn't be selling anything. We wouldn't be repairing anything because everything is made south of the border. Or in China, because every manufacturer uses a broad ocean motor, and that motor comes from China. The good old American made, or wait a second, not American made, but assembled in the USA, Goodman. I don't know if you've ever been on a factory tour of Goodman, but you walk in there, and most of the people that work at Goodman come from south of the border. So when they get paid, I'm sure a lot of that money flows south of the border. Goodman is owned by Daikin, who is a Japanese company. So all their profits go across the ocean to Japan to pay the Japanese government back for that big old loan they took out when they bought Goodman. The mother company of Train, Ingersoll Rand, isn't an American-owned company. I think they're French. So all the profits from that French company goes over to France. Everybody's pissed off because they watched that 4-minute video. And they said they're going to boycott. But when you boycott a company like Carrier, it's not going to hurt them. But who it is going to hurt is the little suppliers that do business with Carrier and ICP. Last week I went on a cruise with my supplier. There was 58 of us that went on this cruise. And the owner of the supply house, who has about 60 employees, he was on this cruise. And I learned a lot about that man. I learned how humble he really is. And I've learned some of the stuff that he's done for his employees. Not from him, because he's humble. But from his other employees, or from his employees, they told me the stories about this man. And today, during the dealers meeting, he walked up, he put his hands on my shoulders, started massaging my shoulders, and say, "Hey, how's that wife of yours?" I said, "She's just as mean as ever." And he said, "Well, I wonder why." He said, "Well, tell her I said hey." And I said, "Yeah, she's probably going to ask me if I gave you a kiss for her." You know, we just laughed and went on about our business. And I told my wife that Ernie said hey. And she said, "Well, tell him I said hey back." And that's how that supply house is. So by boycotting Carrier, that's the real people you're going to boycott. So you're talking about 1,400 people losing their job? Could be a lot more. But you're going to boycott them for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I know. They're moving their factory down to Mexico. But like I said, so did everybody else. A lot of foreign companies own these companies. And their profits go overseas. At least Carrier's American made or owned. And their profits stay in America. Now, let's talk about what's going to happen to these 1,400 people. And anybody else that works for United Technologies that loses their job. Now keep in mind, they have 2 years to plan of what they want to do. They're going to have 3 different choices. First choice is they can go to work at any United Technologies factory if they want to. So they're not losing their job. They're just getting transferred if they choose to go that route. And who knows? They may go to a different factory and get a better job, making more than the $20 or $30 they're making. If they choose not to stay at work for United Technologies, they can go to a trade school. And instead of learning how to put it together, they can learn how to work on it. And we all know what kind of money we can make there. If they choose to, and they're able to, get into a 4-year school, they could go to Harvard on United Technologies' dime. They will send them to 4-year school, paid. So in the end, they could walk out of that deal a lot better off than what they walked into it. Yeah, it's not going to be all unicorns and roses. But when it's done, they could be a lot better off. So don't get mad about 1,400 people losing their job. They could actually be improved by the choice to move to Mexico. Now, I can't defend the choice of moving to Mexico. If I was in their position and I had all the government regulations that they got to contend with, I mean, we see it daily. Refrigerant is going up. R22 is going to be sky high. And there's nothing we can do about it. The government can do it. They can lift the regulation if they wanted to. All they got to do is give the word. I mean, look how much regulations the government puts on people. I mean, everything. They're in our bedrooms. They're in our churches. They're on the roads. we say we're a free country, but we're really not. We're so regulated that we're really not free. So if you want to get mad at somebody, don't get mad at Carrier. Get mad at the damn government for imposing all the regulations that they do on them. But you might say, well, that corporation makes millions and billions of dollars and they can afford to screw that. They're a living, breathing entity that has to do what's right for them. You may not like it. I may not like it. But until the government lets up on the regulations, they don't have a choice. They got to do what they got to do. And this decision wasn't made 2 or 3 years ago. It was made up to 5 years ago. It didn't happen last week. They just didn't have a meeting and say, I think we're going to move to Carrier now. Nah, it was in the works 5 years ago. And like it said, government regulations, Obamacare, had a lot to do with it. So like I said, don't get mad at Carrier for doing it. If you're going to boycott them, like I said, you might as well boycott every other manufacturer. Ream's down there. You know? Boycott Ream. Boycott Trane. Boycott Lennox. Boycott them all. Don't just single them people out because you saw a 4-minute video where 1,400 people lost their job. You know, usually when you hear about somebody losing their job, you don't hear that that corporation is going to send them to school for free. You don't hear the part where that corporation is going to let them go to work in any other factory they want to. They're not getting kicked out on the street. And like I said, they could be better off by the plant closing. You know, that's just it's the way it is. We just have to suck it up and go on. And hopefully get some smart people up in Washington that realizes that the regulations are killing us. But most of them want to impose more regulations on us. So, you know, you take what you want to, and you can boycott them if you want to, but just keep this in mind. If you boycott them, you have to boycott every other manufacturer. And you might as well go find something else to do. Because there's nothing that in our trade is made in America. But just look on the bright side. Be glad they moved down to Mexico and not China. Because instead of saying adios, I could be saying sayonara. Y'all have a good night.